Welcome back. You guys have been giving me some good questions lately. I'm gonna be honest with you. So we got a Dear Rudy video. Now remember, before we start this video, you gotta sound smart. In order to sound smart, always look up, to the left, and always look very confused. What? Okay, seriously, real video. One question. Dear Rudy, Confessions of a Mass Box Opener. I like that. I feel like that's like my stage name. Call me that in middle school. So, seriously, I used to be a mass box opener. Cool, a lot of us did. What would you do to handle the secondary market on new standard flashy cards? How would you bring mass box openers back, and how would you sell more standard boxes? That's a simple question. That's an interesting one. So essentially, this guy sounds like he used to either be a store owner or some sort of card flipper where he used to crack a bunch of boxes of all the new Magic releases, sell the singles, he enjoyed it, and that's how he made his money, probably making his 20 to 40% return net fees. Sounds like he doesn't do it anymore. Sounds like he gets a little irritated and a little ticked off by it. So, if I was in control of making those kind of decisions, what would we do to navigate that? All right, so we need to understand, going into 2020, 2021, if standard's not very, very cheap, almost to the level of being free, you have a segment of the population that will get very angry that cardboard costs more than $1 per card. You have another section of a bunch of distribution, capital, evil people and investors that need value, otherwise they're not going to buy the product. So we need to figure out a way to make both of these people happy. And of course, the majority of everybody in the middle of the bell curve is actually in the middle and actually bleeds a little bit of both sides, which is kind of where I stand. I don't think standard should be expensive because that's a turnoff. Although at the same time, if standard has no value, people aren't going to buy the stupid draft boxes. Papa Hasbro's going to slap me in the face and make me work Sundays with Lumberg, and that's not cool. It's not cool. And Lumberg's at home with Mrs. Rudy, and we're all unhappy. Not cool. So what we need to figure out here is I would probably take this in a direction very similar to what they did in 2016 with Battle for Zendikar announcements. I have to admit, when the 2016 with Battle for Zendikar, I was actually like, oh my god, was that 2015? Holy smokes. 5 years ago, when they did the Battle for Zendikar, I really think they were truly on the verge of really getting it right. But I feel like, as with most things with corporations, they didn't tweak it. They just said, well, it's not perfect, burn it all to the ground. Start over. Doesn't matter. Do you see what I mean? That's what I feel. I feel the closest Wizards has ever been to balancing a cheap standard environment in a collector, investor, box opener environment was Battle for Zendikar. That was the closest they ever were. And of course, that era was the launch of the original lottery cards, everybody. The original lottery card, which I got wrong. I was very negative and skeptical on. Actually, no. I loved it originally, and then I became negative and skeptical when Mark Rosewater made the announcement in Kaladesh saying that all future sets were going to have lottery cards. And that's when everybody went, whoa, wait a minute, what? So wait, this is just going to happen over and over, and these aren't special? So, looking back on it, I think the lottery card is the key to diluting the value of the basic cards in the set. We need the valuation to erode in value. I know I said the word value a lot. It's kind of creepy. I think how I would handle it is our number one problem right now is they've swung the other extreme. Everything's a flashy variant, extended art, showcase frame, full art frame. There's too much. So now that everything is a flashy special card, nothing matters anymore. Literally, the value of a foil and a regular common, or a foil uncommon and a regular uncommon, there's no difference. Nobody gives two flying flips. So now Wizards, in all their mighty knowledge, have swung so extreme. They've diluted it so bad that nobody cares. Now, this may change years from now when they swing again, because I promise you all one thing. Wizards is going to change their tone again in the coming probably 12 to 24 months. I'm telling you all, from what they see today with all the flashy things, they're watching it, and they're making decisions today that won't be implemented until probably 2022, 2023. Now, if I were to try to lure stores and people back in, the number one thing was Khans of Tarkir and Battle for Zendikar were insane mass box openings. And of course, after that was Kaladesh, but that was just because you had beautiful lottery cards, and it was the same business model as Battle for Zendikar. The Khans of Tarkir example I wanted to bring up, just as an example of putting a strong land cycle, like fetch lands, in a standard set, it will make millions and sell the product like crazy. but they made it very clear that they don't want fetch lands in standard, and they don't want to use up that kind of equity selling $80, $90 booster boxes. So that's never going to happen again. Khans of Tarkir here is incredibly special because it's the last set that's a regular standard product to contain fetches, and that's it. So looking at, since that's off the table, I think the sweet spot was Battle for Zendikar and Kaladesh. Both of those products were able to have very cheap, I'm going to use that very loosely because everyone's definition of what's expensive and cheap is very different. Some of you watching think any card that's $5 is a ripoff. Some people think any card under $20 is cheap. Everyone's perspective of currency, money, and where they are in their life is going to be different. So those type of generic terms are going to be very difficult to throw around. But I believe the Battle for Zendikar business model is the key, to answer this guy's question, is the key to bringing back the mass box opening and selling draft boxes. I think the amount of flashiness inside set boxes and collector boxes needs to be throttled back some. I think the original standard draft boxes need to have really high-end chase cards to lure in stores and investors and collectors to crack a million things, just like I did. I cracked almost 500 boxes of Battle for Zendikar. And that's how I accumulated, as you guys saw some of my old videos, the Alpha Invest. You can Google it on YouTube or Google. Hit Alpha Investments, lottery cards, or Zendikar Expeditions. You'll see it where I show you guys all my lottery cards I got from the mass box openings. And I sold all the regular Battle for Zendikar, rares, uncommons, and mythics. And, I kept the foils, which was stupid. But I did that. And that paid for it. But it suppressed the value of the standard cards in Battle for Zendikar and Oath of the Gatewatch. That was a very successful business. It made the player base happy. Well, they didn't really like the idea of the whole, either had to be an ally or an Eldrazi, and there really wasn't much creativity and variety to the game itself on the tier 1 and metas and all these hot words. But the point was, besides that, the point was it made the cards cheap because store owners and mass box openers like myself at the time were purchasing tons of Wizards boxes, cracking them all, hoarding the collectible, investable cards, and dumping everything else. And again, when you actually got a foil lottery expedition or a Kaladesh masterpiece in Aether or Kaladesh or BFC and Oath, when you got these cards, you were truly, it was a big moment. Like, people would freak out and scream. You crack a pack of BFZ, and you hit yourself an actual expedition, Polluted Delta or not Scalding Tarn. What's a good example? Yeah, or Misty Rainforest. Yeah, I guess those are good examples. I remember Misty Rainforest. I think that was gorgeous. It had like the red birds and everything. It was amazing. But you cracked those. It was a big deal. Now, there's so many variants, nobody cares. Literally, you crack it, and it's like, all right. And you need to return to some method to excite the player base and the collector base. Players want to play the game as cheap as possible. In order to do that, you need to have really true high-end chase cards. And I do think that can happen by either having actual numbered cards like the sports card world, actual signed cards, or altered cards from true Magic artists, or truly the Expedition lottery card era of 2016, 2017 of actual chase cards. I would design it that way because one way or the other, when the stores open those $80 to $85 booster boxes wholesale, when they crack those boxes, they need to make at least $100 return net, which means those boxes need to contain $120 to $140 gross during the first 30, 60 days. And whether you derive that from standard playables or from chase cards, that's where you swing the pendulum. And I think it can be solved. Right now, so many people are just bitter and been through all the problems with all these sets. It's going to take time. Even if Wizards changes directions in 2021, which I don't think they will, it's too soon. It takes a long time for big Goliaths to move. I do think the trust can be built back for mass box opening. For now, I'm not seeing it. I think it's still going to remain a while. I do believe Wizards is going to continue to notice the decline in sales of draft booster boxes. And because of that, I do believe Wizards is in the process of making changes today that will kick in 2 years from now. So that's kind of how I would handle it, everybody. I really think the key was the lottery card. I really think the key is true chase cards. Truly hard to get fancy versions of a cheaper card that players can use for the cheap and expensive cards that can be used for investors. If you can satisfy both of those parties, everybody will win, and it's a giggity.